G'day, it's fugitive Australian journalist Shane Dowling from the website and YouTube channel Kangaroo Court of Australia. Now, this video is about how Alan Jones was outed by his own employer, Channel 9, the Sydney Morning Herald, which is owned by Channel 9, and also 2GB, where Alan Jones was working back in 2019. Now, the Sydney Morning Herald published two articles about Alan Jones and his boyfriend, Jake Thrupp. At the end of 2019, they were definitely trying to get rid of him. And I published an article about it on the 12th of February 2020, and a week later, Jake Thrupp and his parents sent me a legal threat, which was clearly paid for by Alan Jones, and Alan Jones was definitely the driver behind it. And I've just published a video in relation to the legal threat, and this video is in relation to the article I published on the 12th of February 2020. After you've heard this podcast in relation to that article, I'll put a link to the previous video in relation to the legal threat from Jake Thrupp and his parents, paid for by Alan Jones, and you can listen to that video as well. So on the 12th of February 2020, I published an article titled "Alan Jones is back grooming young male students for his sexual pleasure." And it starts off, Alan Jones has a long history of being a sexual predator of young males and is now in a sexual relationship with 22-year-old university student Jake Thrupp, who is also employed by the 78-year-old Mr. Jones on a part-time basis. The reason we know this is because Jones' employer, Nine Entertainment, ran not one but two stories on the scandal last year. And while they did not expressly state Jones and Thrupp in a sexual relationship, they said enough so the reader is in no doubt that is the situation. Jones was forced to resign as a teacher by his employer in the 1970s, the King's School in Sydney, for grooming male students. I published an article in May 2015 titled "2GB's Alan Jones sent love letters to a schoolboy. Why has he never been charged with grooming?" which starts off, Sydney radio station 2GB's Alan Jones sent love letters to schoolboys, had boys in his room late at night and perved on them in the shower when he was a teacher at the King's School in Sydney in the 1970s. This behaviour led to Alan Jones' forced resignation in 1973. That type of conduct would be considered grooming today, and the police would be called for sure. It's important to raise the above again, especially since last week when Prime Minister Scott Morrison was publicising on Twitter about doing an interview with Mr. Jones on his radio show on the Nine Entertainment-owned radio station 2GB. Prime Minister Scott Morrison is no stranger to associating with and promoting people who protect pedophiles, as he is good friends with Hillsong's church pastor, Brian Houston, who is still under investigation by the New South Wales Police for protecting his pedophile father. So it should be no surprise that Scott Morrison also has no problem associating with pedophiles like Alan Jones. After Prime Minister Scott Morrison interfered in the police investigation into federal MP Angus Taylor by ringing New South Wales Police Commissioner Mick Fuller, I thought I should also ask the New South Wales Police if Prime Minister Scott Morrison had also called them about the Brian Houston police investigation, but they refused to respond, unlike previously. In the first story on the 12th of October 2019, the Nine Entertainment-owned Sydney Morning Herald published the article titled "New Man About Town Joins Team Alan." The article started off with their matching pocket squares and snappy blazers, the handsome young chap with the golden locks accompanying Alan Jones around town in recent months has certainly had tongues wagging around the studios of 2GB. While some chatter has been particularly unkind, Private Sydney can happily reveal the young man is 22-year-old Jake Thrupp. Jones is a long-time friend of the Thrupp family and has taken the young Queenslander under his wing to show him the ways of the big city. And my article goes on to say, when Jones' own employer is saying that the situation has certainly had tongues wagging around the studios of 2GB, some chatter has been particularly unkind, and Thrupp, who is 55 years Jones Jr., then there is no doubt that the vast majority of readers will believe the Sydney Morning Herald is saying that Jones is in a sexual relationship with Jake Thrupp. The article was followed up with another on the 19th of October 2019 titled "Trouble in Team Jones as a Butler Bolts," which started off last week. An unamused Alan Jones crowed to Private Sydney about his loyal staffers, saying they were hopefully more than simply colleagues. And indeed, there was none more loyal than his private butler for 18 years, the consummately discreet David Allen, a man who has greeted and served some of the most influential names in the country at Jones' home and never spilled the beans. However, following this column's exclusive revelations about the emergence of handsome young aspiring media commentator 22-year-old Jake Thrupp by Jones' side, Private Sydney can reveal that Jones and his trusted manservant have recently parted ways. While Thrupp remains on Jones' personal payroll, Allen has departed the Toaster building where he has dutifully served his master. And while Thrupp gave the Murdoch Press, for which Jones is a star columnist, some carefully worded quotes last Sunday about his relationship with mentor Jones, his ongoing presence within the broadcaster's most intimate orbit continues to be the subject of much discussion around the corridors of power across Sydney and Canberra. Once again, the vast majority of readers would believe that the butler quit after the sexual relationship between Jones and Thrupp was reported by the Sydney Morning Herald. Jones claims that he knows Jake because he is a long-time friend of the Thrupp family, whose dad is a truck driver and his mum works at Bunnings. Pedophiles are well known for also grooming the parents. It was also reported. Private Sydney can also reveal that in February 2019, Jones bought a multi-million-dollar apartment in a sparkling new iconic apartments development on Kira Beach on the Gold Coast and has been spending time at the holiday spot in recent months. After the two Sydney Morning Herald stories, it was reported a few weeks later on the 25th of October that Jake, 22, who hails from Gold Coast, has been on Allen's payroll since April 2018 on a part-time basis as he continues his politics degree at the University of Sydney. Not only is Jake employed by Allen, but also his mother, Chantrell, who swapped a job at hardware chain Bunnings for managing the media star's Queensland properties. Jake, who has his own podcast, A Week with Jake Thrupp, spoke of his relationship with his mentor in an interview with the Sunday Telegraph this month. Thrupp says, I connected with Allen a couple of years back when he was doing charity work in Queensland, and I was working for Tweed Heads councillor James Owen, he said. Allen was keen to donate some prizes for the 2017 Lismore floods, and I was working in James' office. Allen made contact and we started emailing back and forth, and that's how we got to know each other. Jones has bought a unit near his toy boy and put the mum on the payroll. That's grooming and how pedophiles like Jones work, and why he was forced to resign as a teacher at the King's School. Jones says in the Sydney Morning Herald he is a long-time friend of the Thrupp family, but Jake Thrupp told the Telegraph, I connected with Allen a couple of years back when he was doing charity work in Queensland, and I was working for Tweed Heads councillor James Owen. So, who was lying? There's a lot of holes in Alan Jones' story regarding his relationship with Jake Thrupp and his parents. Why did Nine Entertainment run the stories in the Sydney Morning Herald? Were they getting in first and covering themselves from other potential bad media, or maybe a potential lawsuit from Jake Thrupp? Did Alan Jones set up the stories? A lot of unanswered questions. Jones has always refused to answer questions about his forced resignation from the King's School and when he was arrested for lewd conduct in a toilet in England in the 1980s. It's also my understanding that Alan Jones is still under investigation by the New South Wales Police for statutory rape of underage boys in the 1980s, as I reported in June 2016, although it's taking just as long as the Brian Houston police investigation. Jones has regularly used his position in the media to defend pedophiles such as George Pell and John Marsden, and now it is publicly known he has a 22-year-old boyfriend. While not illegal, it adds to the evidence that he is a pedophile and people like the Prime Minister should have nothing to do with him. But being a pedophile hasn't stopped former Prime Ministers John Howard and Tony Abbott continuing their friendship and supporting convicted pedophile George Pell. Pedophilia is being normalised at the highest levels of government and the media. That's why we need another Royal Commission solely focused on politicians and the media. Now, as I said at the beginning, I published that article on the 12th of February 2020, and a week later, on the 19th of February 2020, I received a legal threat, although I didn't receive it until a couple of weeks later. Long story, it was during COVID. The letter was sent to a mailbox, and I got a couple of weeks later and published another article. And I just did a video on that article on the 21st of November 2024 titled Alan Jones' 22-year-old boyfriend sent legal threat to a journalist. And I'll put a link to that video below this video on YouTube. So once you listen to this video, you can go and listen to the other video about the legal threats I received because I didn't like the article I just read out to you. I'll be publishing more articles about Alan Jones and his history. I've been reporting about it for the last 10 years. Alan Jones being a sexual predator. I've written numerous articles about it. So make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and notification button. And please share this video on social media. And Kangaroo Court of Australia is independent media. I publish a website and a YouTube channel. So please support me on my PayPal account or Patreon account. You can donate any amount, $3, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30, $40, $50 a month. Or you can do one-off donations. The links for the PayPal and Patreon account are below this video on YouTube and also on my website. Other than that, thank you for your time and have a good day.